So first, you prepare very well for question. Second, you know where you stand. The third thing about top-down negotiation is you kind of realize that the cards are somewhat played in your favor because they give you the opportunity to prepare. They give you the opportunity to prepare, I beg your pardon, right? They give you the opportunity to prepare sort of for the questions they would ask you in future, right? So for example, if any of us today is going for an interview, we know questions that are most likely going to come up, right? Questions like, tell me about yourself. Questions like, why do you need a job? Questions like, what's your salary range? Questions like, you already prepare subconsciously for the kind of questions that they would ask you in a top-down negotiation, right? That's some of the benefits of having a top-down. The second side of negotiation is peer-to-peer negotiation. And how do we know we are gravitating towards peer-to-peer? Well, peer-to-peer negotiation is simply negotiation where the table is balanced, right? Nobody has the upper hand of the negotiation to the other person. For people to experience peer-to-peer negotiation, these are people who have, they are probably in their mid to senior level roles. These are people who, they have some level of career achievement in their belt. These are people who have done one or two things in their career, in their industry. They have made name for their self in their industry, right? What are the benefits of peer-to-peer negotiation? Well, the benefit of peer-to-peer negotiation is it moves from Q&A to conversation, right? In top-down negotiation, we discussed earlier that because somebody has the upper hand, most conversations will be Q&A, right? It will be me asking you a question and you replying me. However, in a peer-to-peer negotiation, it moves from question and answer to a very, very leveling conversation, right? So let's go back to our example.
I'm a free in one case. Now.
All right, so let's mute our mic. If you're on the call, let's mute our mic. Let's mute. Thank you very much. So let's go back to our example. In a top-down negotiation, you will realize that because somebody has the upper hand, this probably is a disadvantage. They kind of control how the negotiation goes, right? They control how the negotiation will go. So say you find yourself again in front of an employer. But before you go to that employer, if you're in a top-down negotiation, the employer tells you where to go, right? Which is the location of the interview. The employer tells you what to wear, right? They will tell you, oh, black and white. The employer tells you what time to arrive, right? All these are not controlled by you because it's a top-down negotiation. In the other hand, peer-to-peer negotiation, the employer really do not have the autonomy to tell you all these things, right? What happens is in a peer-to-peer negotiation, most likely they will meet somewhere in the middle, right? That is where you will have some people go for interviews, in a lounge. They will have people go for interviews in a restaurant. Most likely the employer would not tell somebody in a peer-to-peer negotiation what to get, right? Most likely the employer would not tell them what time. The employer would mainly suggest what time in a peer-to-peer negotiation. How do we get to this peer-to-peer negotiation? Right. First is you need to have built some credibility, right? Peer-to-peer negotiation doesn't happen overnight. Peer-to-peer negotiation really happens with time as you continue to build your credibility, as you continue to grow through your career path. Peer-to-peer negotiation just seems to start falling in place for you. So yeah, those are the two sides of negotiation. First is the top-down negotiation, and second is the peer-to-peer negotiation. Now that we've understand the top-down negotiation, we've understand peer-to-peer negotiation, we've talked about what negotiation is, and we've also talked about the 5 components of negotiation. These are the fundamentals of negotiating salaries and benefits, right? First is you do your research, right? How do you do your research? Especially if you're negotiating your salary. What we find out is a lot of people go to their employers and tell them things like, hey, good morning, good afternoon, sir. I've been working here for 5 years. You know, all my mates are now earning 500,000. I'm still earning 250. Can you increase my salary? That is not the best way to negotiate salary. The first thing you want to do when you're negotiating your salary is do your research. And the first thing you need to do when you do your research is you need to ask yourself, the people in my industry, how much are they earning? How much is the average earning power in my industry? So for example, if you are a waiter, for an example, or if you're an HR or an accountant, the first question you want to ask is, how much are people in my industry, how much are people in my, doing the same thing that I do, how much do they earn, right? The second research is, do I have the skills and quality to compete in that same environment? So yes, I want to increase the salary, but do I have the qualities? Do I have the skills? Have I upskilled myself that when I'm negotiating this salary, the employer is seeing it from my point of view, right? So yes, first is, how much is the average in my industry? Do I have the capacity, the skills that is necessary to negotiate this salary? And the third thing you want to learn when you're doing your research is, do the organization have enough resources to increase my salary, right? Yes, some organizations can see your worth. Some organizations can see that you can do the job, you have the skills, but it just can't pay you that salary. So you want to do this thorough research before negotiating salaries and benefits. Secondly, you need to learn about fundamentals of negotiating salaries and benefits is never make a demand, right? Do not go to employers, say, I demand, or I believe this amount should be the best amount for us, or I believe or I demand. Never make a demand. The third thing is never give a range. Give a range rather, not figures. Give a range, not figures. Let's go back to the salary example. So imagine you are negotiating the salary, right? And then the employer asks you, so how much do you think would be best to increase your salary? Always give a range, not figures. Some people will go and say, well, I'm earning 30,000 naira before, can you increase it to 60,000 naira, right? What happens if you give a figure to in a negotiation table is it shuts down the negotiation, right? Because the employer can then move from, the negotiation just go from, okay, you want 60, can we do 20, can we do 35? It shuts down the negotiation. What you want to do is you want to give a range. You want to keep the negotiation as open as possible. In fact, I would say that in giving a range, it's best you use percentage, right? It's best you use percentage. Say you have, let's go back to our example where you have, you currently earn 30,000 naira and you want to negotiate your salary, right? The best you can do is say, I understand that I'm currently earning 30,000 naira in this organization based off XYZ that I've done, based off, always give a backend. Remember our data, remember data when we're talking about components of negotiation, right? Use data to always back your claim. Based off XYZ that I've done, based on the kind of customers that I've brought in, based on the kind of business deals that I've brought in, based on the kind of XYZ that I've done, I believe that we can look towards 25% increase, 35% increase, 45% increase. At the end of the day, your goal is to keep this room, keep that negotiation going, right? Keep that conversation going, right? The fourth thing is aim for conversations, not Q&A. We discussed this earlier. Aim for conversations, not question and answer. Why is conversations better than question and answer? Well, conversation just make the other person you are negotiating with relax. It makes them feel relaxed, right? Imagine I walk up to any one of you and I say, hey, I want to have a question and answer session with you, versus I come to you and I say, hey, I want to have a conversation with you, right? Conversations just make people very, very relaxed. The fifth and final thing you need to learn about the fundamentals of negotiating salaries and benefits is you need to read between the lines. A lot of people go into negotiation and they are totally lost while negotiating, right? You need to read between the lines. I believe most of us are Africans here, so I will use the example of our parents while growing up, right? Especially when we have visitors around, right? And your mother will wink at you, or your dad would move his feet in a certain way. Your parents do not have to literally speak for you to understand what they were trying to say, right? Again, let's learn to mute our mic. Thank you, so that we don't distract anybody, right? So in that scenario, your parents don't have to tell you what they mean. You read their emotions, you read their mood, you read their body language, and I'm sure you adjust accordingly, right? So that's the same attitude you need to bring to negotiation. You need to read between the lines. Why is reading between the lines very important? Well, say you want to negotiate your salary with your employer, right? And then you ask your employer for a meeting. And then the employer is shocked, or the employer gives you a very distinctive look. You need to, at that point, start reading, what does this look mean? When your employer is relaxed, what does it mean? Imagine you tell your employer, oh, I believe this certain benefit or certain salary will be good conversation for us. The response of your employer should read meaning. So always learn what the other person or what the other people are not saying, right? Read between the lines. So these are 5 fundamentals of negotiation. One is do your research. The second is never make a demand. The third is give range, not figures. The fourth is aim for conversations, not Q&A. And the fifth, the final one, is read between the lines. Now that we understand components of negotiation, now that we understand how to negotiate, we now understand what we need to do when negotiating. We understand the skills we need to bring on board. We understand that we need to tell our story better. We understand that we need to use data, facts, and figures. We understand we need to be assertive. We understand we need to communicate clearly. What do we do when negotiation doesn't plan out the way we want, right? And these are 5 things that I've put together we can try when negotiation doesn't plan out the way we want. But the first one is know your value. Know your value. A lot of people assume that because they are praised or because they perceive that somebody sees what they are doing, it means that person values them. No. It's the same way you go to the market and they tell you, oh, a tuber of yam costs 1,000 naira. You don't go to the seller and say, no, this tuber is so fresh, this tuber is so fine. Why can't you sell this in 1,000 naira? Sell it for me 3,500 naira, right? You go there and say 1,000 naira, can we buy it for 500 naira? That's the same thing that happens in the workplace. In fact, in career, especially when it comes to negotiation, know your value, right? The moment you stop talking about value, then people would negotiate with you at a low or at a very, very low end. So know your value. First, you need to communicate well. It's your value. The second one is be willing to compromise. A lot of people are stiff in their thinking, are not willing to compromise. A lot of people do not want to hear the other person, or they don't want to even choose or look into any other direction. Say, for example, you are going for a job interview and the salary is 60,000 naira, but you know that 60,000 naira is too small for you. But one of the things you can say in the negotiation table is, okay, aside from 60,000 naira, are there other benefits to it, right? Always look out to compromise. Always look out to see other benefits aside from what you are negotiating for. So be willing to compromise whenever you are negotiating. Now, willing to compromise do not mean that you settle for less. No, that's not what we are saying here. What willing to compromise simply means is you look at what is offered on the table and you look at are there other ways to get what you want. Say for example, again, you want to negotiate for a higher salary and they tell you, oh, we cannot pay you 60,000 naira at the moment. However, if you work for, say, 2 or 1 more quarter, we are happy to renegotiate your salary. Are you willing to work for 3 months so that your salary can be negotiated? So always be willing to compromise. The third one is take time to craft your counter offer, right? You will hear a lot of no's. You would hear a lot of counter offers. Take time to craft your counter offers. What I've seen in a lot of negotiation tables is people do not really take time to craft their counter offers. They don't really take time to respond to questions, right? They sort of presume, they sort of have this automatic listening method in their head where before the other person, stops talking, they already have a response, right? Take time, breathe, take a deep breath, pause, take time to really digest what the person is saying before you give your counter offer. The fourth one is don't give an ultimatum, especially, remember the 2 sides of negotiation, especially if the negotiation is a top-down negotiation, do not give an ultimatum. It's not in your rule, right? Do not give an ultimatum. Remember that negotiation is a thread of conversation you want to keep going on, right? Do not give an ultimatum. Leave the thread open, leave the room open, leave the negotiation table very wide, and let it flow. The last one is be prepared for their response, right? It's really funny to me when people go in negotiation table and they are not prepared for response, right? You would hear things like, oh, I'm not prepared to answer this question, or I'll get back to you on this. No, it's a negotiation table. You should be prepared for responses. Say you are negotiating your salary again, and your offer was 60,000 naira. Be prepared to hear no. Be prepared to respond to counter offers. And the best way to prepare again is to know what to say next. The best way to prepare again is to do your research. The best way to prepare again is to understand your values, right? Remind them time and time again why this conversation is important, why we are negotiating, why you are pushing for this, right? But be prepared for a response. So guys, the last and final slide for me is remember everything we've discussed so far is practice, practice, practice. Nobody is an expert in negotiation. Sometimes you negotiate favorably your terms, sometimes it's a win-win negotiation. But the best way to get into negotiation is practice, practice, practice. Let's learn to negotiate, right? Let's learn when not to negotiate. Let's learn what we can do to negotiate. But whatever we do, let's practice, practice, practice. So at this point, I almost feel like I'm the only one speaking here. So at this point, I would like us to share. I would like to ask any question we have regarding what we have mentioned, where we have talked about so far. If you have any question, or if you have negotiated more recently, I would like to hear our experience. I would like us to learn from each other at this point. So I would want us to raise our hands if you would be interested in sharing. Right. If you'll be interested in sharing, kindly raise your hand. Or if you have any questions so far, any clarification, something that jumps at you, let's hear you.
Yeah, hello. Hello.
Hi, good
Can you hear
afternoon,
me?
good morning. I can hear you.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you very much for all you've said so far. I think I've picked one or two from everything you've said, and I've actually been able to like arrange my mistakes and all. Yeah, but okay. So a quick one: what will you advise
Mhm.
one should do before going for an interview? There are sometimes you'll be so confident. It's not good to be overconfident or something. You'll be so confident that okay, you know what you want to go and meet at the interview. You get
Mhm.
like what will you advise one should do? Even for you to be able to at least keep calm before going for an interview or something. Or sometimes it might not even be interview. I do want to meet your superior to negotiate something out or something. But you have this phobia or something. I don't know. It's not really phobia or something, but it's the reluctance to go and meet your superior, go into the interview with full confidence. What we advise one to do in that sense, when you yourself know that you are not very confident in yourself in this aspect of thinking, even though you know what you want, and you know
Mm.
you are good in what you want, but the confidence to like face the person or something is not coming. So what would you advise in that kind of situation? Sorry, can you hear me closer to?
Right. That's a very, very good question. So the question is, what would you advise somebody that is not so confident, um, especially if the person is going for an interview? Well, the first thing I would advise this person that is not so confident in going for an interview is first is you need to ask yourself, why am I going for this interview? Why am I taking up this opportunity? If you know your why, if you understand why you are going for this interview, the second thing you need to ask yourself is, do I honestly have the skills for this opportunity, right? Do I have the skills? And if you can answer this question, it goes down to what we discussed earlier about how do I communicate, right? My belief, how do I communicate everything that I know in my head, how do I communicate it to this other person? One thing you can do to help you communicate this better, to help you build confidence, is practice. Call your friends around. If you have a mirror, use a mirror, practice, 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 right? Talk to yourself, ask questions. Tell your friends to give you feedback. Tell them to replay whatever you have said to them, to you. Another thing you can do is, I know we are now in the age of technology, and a lot of us, if not all of us, has a phone that has a WhatsApp. Everything you would say in that negotiation table, everything you would say in that interview, say it to yourself, right? Or say it using a voice note and then re-listening to what you have said, right? Pay attention to your tone, pay attention to your language, pay attention to how fast you are going when talking, pay attention to how slow you are going while talking, right? Replay these things to yourself over and over before you go for an interview. And the last thing I would advise is know your onions, right? That's the best way to build confidence. Know exactly what you are doing. If you go for a negotiation table, no matter how confident you are, if you do not know or own the content, you would fail. That's just the truth. So if you are going there, because you are a waiter, know exactly what a waiter is. Know what the job role requires, right? So know your onion before going to an interview. I believe
Okay.
that makes sense.
Okay. That's very good. Okay. A quick. Sorry. Other ones now. I just want you to like give me a practical example of something.
Mhm.
Okay. So yeah, you want to actually go to a particular company. Yes. Maybe you want to go and advertise your products, or you want to like
Mhm.
partner with them, or you want them to partner with you in your own
Mhm.
um business or something, so as like both parties can both gain in each other's end or something. Yeah. So imagine you get to the okay, eventually we know to enter all these companies or something, it's not very easy or something, but just imagine yourself, you finally have a chance to meet the secretary or something, and they give you a chance to meet the person you're going to meet with or something. So I want this to be like a practical class now. Imagine you are the person in my shoe now. Now that you want to like go to a particular okay, let's say you are into you sell air products or something. You get, or let's say you're a barber or something. You actually want to partner with some with you want to come advertise your products in a particular school or a particular industry. You get, so you get given the chance to like come and advertise yourself, come and tell the manager, okay, the reason why you're in this company. So how will you even start up the conversation? How will you like for you? Because I pick something from what you said earlier. You said storytelling, communication, and the assertiveness. You get, so, and I believe in the beginning of every conversation, you have to like make it more attractive so the person wants to hear more. Yeah. So how will you handle a situation? How will you handle a situation like this? Can you just give us like maybe just like if I a 3 minute practical class on okay how you are going to give about this?
All right. Your question is very, very important. It's almost like you are currently in the middle of this situation, and if it's true, then then well done. There are many ways to start. There are many ways to tell your story. There are many ways to present your product or services. Right. The first thing you can do, if it's me, if I'm, let's go with your example of I'm trying to sell, barbing equipment, or I'm trying to sell, salon or my salon idea to anybody. The first thing you need to learn is you need to understand what the problem of this pinpoint, the problem of these people, right? So if the problem of these people is that they are looking for somebody who can barb, their hair without any risk, right? You can come from a data point of view. Remember, we talked about data, right? So imagine starting your conversation like for every 100 people who barbs their hair, over 20% of them have hair infection using other people's clipper, right? That already caught their attention because we're not talking about hygiene. We're not talking about why they need the clipper, right? And then you say things like they use other people's clipper because they don't know that there are alternatives, that are cheaper clipper in the market, right? So that way, you did not just talk about the problem, you are not bringing the problem to life. They can now see themselves, God forbid, having hair infection because they are using other people's clipper, right? And afterwards, you can tell them what the features of the clipper, and then you tell them why your clipper will be the best clipper to do the job, right? But first, you need to let them be interested enough to listen to you. And the best way for you to be interested enough to listen to you is for you to tell them the pain points, tell them exactly what they will be missing if they do not listen to you. So if you're trying to sell, if you're trying to sell a car, if the pain point of the customer is they can't afford luxury cars, then talk to them about affordability, right? If you're trying to sell, a house, if the pain point of the customer is that they can't find house that they can't find a big enough house for their family, talk about it, right? Whatever you are trying to sell, always look for the pain point, right? For example, we at Wave Academy, the pain point that we talk about often is skills acquisition, right? We talk about how you can use skills to get job opportunities at the end of the day, right? We talk about getting a job because that's the pain point of every young African right now, right? They want to get something doing, right? So we talk about your pain point, and then we then tell you the steps you would take to get your pain point. So first, talk about your pain point, and then talk about how your product or service will be the best product or services to drive your pain point to them. Right. I'm sure that I was able to answer your question. Somebody is raising their hands.
Thank you.
Okay. Please go ahead before we take questions in the chat box.
Good morning, sir.
Oh,
someone take the floor. Okay.
Oh, okay. Good morning. I'm sorry, but my brother, you know what they say, ladies first. So let's listen to her.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Good morning. My name is
Thank
Kingsley.
you. Yeah, my name is Bill Gania.
Okay.
Thanks for the enlightenment, sir. My question is, when it comes to the low down negotiation, what is the range will you advise the person to give all the percentage? So that is my question. Thank you.
So can you give a context when you say top-down negotiation? What's the range? Are you talking about in a top-down negotiation you're negotiating salary, or what exactly are you talking about?
Yes, the salary.
So if you are negotiating salary for the first time, say it's an interview and you're negotiating salary, but it's a top-down negotiation, which means that all the parts are not in your hands. Well, the range you should, I mean, it depends on the job role. However, if the job role is, if the average of that industry is 100,000 naira, right? You should give between 100 and 180. It really depends on what works for you, right? However, the reason why we say do not give a figure is if you give a figure, it closes every opportunity to renegotiate, right? Because you gave the figure. Say the industry pays 100,000 naira, and then they ask you how much should I pay you, and you say, oh, 150,000 naira, and the employer feels, oh, okay, I can pay you 150,000 naira, and then the employer says, okay, right? It closes opportunity for you to renegotiate. What if the organization pays 250, right? So that's the reason why we say you should always give a range. However, the trick is, while giving a range, always back it up with your why. Always back it up with your why. And a lot of people a lot of people are very good at giving a range. However, when they are trying to back it up, that's where they make a lot of mistakes. So you will hear people back up their why to say, for example, I want you to pay me 150,000 naira because I'm coming from a very far distance. Okay.
All right, sir.
Somebody say they can't hear me. Can you hear me? Can you confirm if you can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you, yes.
Right. So if you say that, oh, pay me 150,000 naira, a lot of the mistake people make is when they are backing their why of the reason is very, very weak, right? So we hear people say, oh, pay me 150,000 naira because I'm coming from Ikorodu, and then the transport fare is increasing. To be honest, employers do not care, right? However, imagine somebody saying, oh, the reason why I believe you can pay me within this range is because based off where I'm coming from, based on the skills I've been able to acquire, based on the kind of systems and structure that I will put into place, I believe with this range we can work with XYZ, right? That makes more sense. The employer is seeing it from the place of value rather than from the place of I'm coming from this place, or from the place of they used to pay this amount for the place I'm working before. Does that answer your question? All right. All right.
Yes, sir. Yes, you have. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay.
Yeah, good morning, Kingsley. Good morning, everybody. Abibo Anila is my name.
Hi, Abib. Good morning.
Yeah, thank you. So the question I want to put out is this: can situational occurrences like maybe tax, cost of transport, and other things, cost of materials, can that push someone to request for a negotiation of salary again? Because like assuming someone is working since 2017 now and the organization is paying that same amount they are paying in 2017 up to 2022, and that person kept asking that, okay, Oga, you have to do something more to this, and Oga is insisting that I wish I could do more, but point to one or two reasons I couldn't. I have this project at hand. I do this, I do that. But because of the value that such person is bringing to that organization, that I brought this, I do this, I achieved this for this organization, and that same as an employer is trying to keep that person down. That okay, you just have to wait more. I will do this, and when that time comes again, you ask for more, and same thing is said that, oh, I'm sorry again, I wish I could do more. Can failure to agree to negotiation let someone leave a job? And two, can situational occurrences like cost of things now, cost of things in 2017 is not the same as cost of things in 2023 now. So can that lead to a renegotiation of salary?
Thank you very much, Abid. That's a very fantastic question. And the first question about failure to agree on a particular amount for a long period of time, can that lead to people leaving their job? Yes, it can. I can't imagine somebody working from 2017 to 2023 without increasing salary. So yes, it can. However, if you're going to leave your job, again, it all depends on how you leave your job. Like we always say at Wave, do not slam the door, right? Yes, this employer have not treated you rightly. Yes, this employer have not increased your salary, but do not slam the door. Leave as respectful as possible. To your second question, yes, every single person living in Nigeria felt what it means to live in Nigeria at the beginning of this year. However, again, it leads to how do you communicate value at the end of the day, right? I'll play two scenarios for you, Abib, and I would ask you which one is better, right? This is the first scenario. So the first scenario is I come to you, Abib, as an employee, and I say, good morning, sir. Well, sir, I would like to speak to you about my salary. You know that from January, Nigeria have faced a lot of challenges. There have been cash crunch, there have been election, and there have been fuel subsidy. So the amount I used to bring or take to work is no longer the amount I used to take to work. I would appreciate if we can revisit this salary and talk about it again. That's the first scenario, right? The second scenario is I come to you and I say, hi, good morning, sir. I would like us to talk about salary. Based off of what we are seeing in our economy, right? And I would like to also see how I can advance in your organization. Can you help me figure out what the best way to get to that place is? Can you help me figure out how I can get to this salary or this range faster, right? Can you hear me, Abib?
Yes, I can.
Okay, right. So the first scenario, you will notice that it focuses on the problem. It focuses on the problem, cash crunch, subsidy, election. However, the second scenario focused on opportunities. It focused on how can you help me think through? How can I get to this salary? You are throwing the question back to the person who is supposed to increase your salary, right? What that does is that person takes time to think, right? Because immediately you come with the first scenario and say, oh, based off of this problem that I'm seeing, increase my salary. What happens is this person did not have the opportunity to think, right? So for employers in the room, you would know that the first thing they want to do is shut down. The first thing they want to do is be defensive. However, if you come with the second scenario, what happens is you give them the room to think. It becomes like a co-created solution, if that makes sense, right? You and the person are not creating the best scenario for you. Of course, this person doesn't want you to go, but you have planted it in the heart of this person that, look, if you don't want me to go, this salary is not enough. So help me think through how I can get to this salary, right? What are the skills I need to add on? What are the opportunities I need to take on? I need to do more, do I need to take on more responsibility to get to the salary rate, right? What we are doing is you are giving them an opportunity to first, they will give you the opportunity to grow, but most importantly, they would also give you the opportunity to co-create the solution that you want. And it's the best place to be because even if they don't increase your salary, they would appreciate how you approach them with that conversation. Abib, does that make sense?
Yeah, Very perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, we are seeing more hands up, but I want to quickly go to, I would answer your questions, but I want to quickly go to the chat box and hear people's opinion. Idara, can you help me out?
Okay, so I can see someone's question. Wabuzo Prince. Should I read out the question for you?
Yes, please.
Okay, he said, my question would be, even after we have prepared our counter offer, but on getting there, the situation is not what we think. In that case, should we continue the negotiation, or at this point we should stop the negotiation? That is Wabuzo Prince's question. Is that clear, or I should repeat?
Very clear. Very clear. Right. Thank you very much, Wabuzo Prince. I would really, it would have been a great opportunity to, if you could share context. But yeah, I understand. So say you have prepared a counter offer, right? And you get to the place for negotiation, and unfortunately the situation changes, right? It happens a lot of the time. In fact, you would know that you should over prepare. However, in cases like this, know when to pull back, right? Because what you prepared for is not what is showing. Know when to push back. Know when to pull back. So I'll give a good example. So a few days ago, I was listening to a very, very influential figure on YouTube talk about a very similar situation, right? And he talked about two people who had who came in for an interview. And then on getting there, the interviewer, instead of asking them interviewing question, he asked them what was the length of the fence that the length of the office building, sort of the height of the office building they were in. The first person, what if the first person kind of created a figure in his head and just gave, right there and then. However, the second person paused the interviewer, asked the interviewer if he can quickly go out and look at the building again, came back and gave a figure. Now, I'm not asking you to leave your interview and go and look for building. What I'm asking you to do is, it's time to tell, it's okay to tell the interviewer you will get back to them. It's okay to tell the interviewer, can I think about it? It's okay to tell the interviewer, and can you give me time to process this? Can you give me time to look for this, right? There is nothing wrong with that. However, if you're asking for time, or if you're going to ask for space, give a figure, right? Say, can you give me 24 hours to think about it, right? And in 24 hours, get back to them. Can you give me a day to think about it? And in a day, get back to them, right? So yes, life happened, but yes, it's a negotiation, and it's better to be safe saying anything than go there and say the wrong things. Right, I hope I've been able to answer that question. Right. Yeah, I'm seeing hands up again. Idara, is there any other question in the chat box?
No, there's no other question. And Prince has said, yes, you have answered his question. So the two hands that are up are Adiwale and Zainab. So you can just answer Adiwale's question because his hand was up first. Okay. More hands are still coming up. I can see Nifemi just joined. I think
Right, Adewale, over to you.
Good morning, Kingsley. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Yeah, my question is based on my previous experience in interview I went to. So I was in front of the interviewers and talking about their salary, they were asking me what was my salary expectation. And I billed them normally. Like I said, okay, I'm expecting 100K for this role. And based on the job requirement, I'm expecting 100K as my salary expectation. And they were like, they all yell at me and started giving me an instances that, okay, that where I worked before what was my salary like. And I told them I earned 80,000 naira as a teacher, as a classroom teacher, teaching different 4 subjects in a secondary school setting. And they were doubting me. And because the long story short, they were not specific about their salary structure. They were not telling me how much they were offering me. And based on my lack, like I don't have experience in negotiating salary, is what the employer offer, I just go with it based on my previous work experience. Well, in this time around, they are not offering me a specific salary scale. And they were not making mention that this is the amount we are going to pay you. And I failed to ask them that, what are you going to pay? Like, what are you going to pay? So at the end of the day, they said they will get back to me if they've been able to reach a consensus based on their salary scale. They were even giving me an instances in other settings, like teachers don't earn up to 80K. And I affirm to the fact that that's what I earn. So I told them it's 80K I was offered. And now currently I'm going for an interview this coming Tuesday. Although I've gone for a practical test in the same organization last 2 weeks. I was not interviewed. Like, it's just a practical test. There's no room for me to negotiate for salary. So I don't want the same thing, the same scenario to repeat itself. That's why I'm asking this question. That what am I expected to do? What are the questions am I expected to do? Because I failed to ask my previous employers that what are they offering for the role? Because I didn't see that it was a referral, and this current one I'm going for another interview again. I've been there for the practical test. They didn't give me a room to negotiate salary, but this time around, I don't know. Probably they will give me a room to negotiate salary, or if they don't, should I ask?
Right. That's a very, very important question. Thank you, Adewale. You brought everything we've said so far, and you just gave a good context to it. So, Adewale, we would use your experience as an example. Is that okay?
Okay, it's fine.
All right, great. So, Adewale, please stay on the call, because I believe asking you some couple of questions will help us better understand why you failed to negotiate your salary, or why you failed to negotiate your way into that organization. The first thing I would ask you is, your previous job as a teacher, what exactly was your responsibilities?
As a classroom teacher, teaching 4 different subjects in a secondary school setting. So I teach health education, social studies, and English literature.
Okay. So you were a class teacher for 4. You were teaching 4 subjects. Okay.
Yes.
Right. And they were paying you 80K.
Yes.
All right, Adewale. Were you the one preparing class notes?
Yes, I have.
Okay. What do you use to prepare these class notes? Do we do it on a book, or do you have do you use Excel? Do you use any of these tools to prepare your class notes?
So I am conversant with Excel, Microsoft application, but we don't do that. What they have library, so I consult their library to prepare my notes in written form. So it's not digitized.
Okay. Okay. The final question, Adewale, is how long have you been teaching?
Based on the fact that my mom is a proprietress, she has a nursery primary school setting as a proprietor. So I got the experience from there, and based on that was my first job experience as a classroom teacher.
Okay. So Adewale, the reason why I was asking this is so that I can draw out what you can actually sell in your next interview. So when you were speaking, what I've heard you say a lot is you told us what you do, right? You told us you're a teacher, but you never sort of created a scenario or told us a story of what it's like to be a teacher, right? The truth is, Adewale, a lot of people, including me, to be honest, have certain perception about teaching. Unless you tell us, we will not know, right? At the end of the day, you are the one that have been a teacher. That is why at the beginning of this conversation, we talked about values. We talked about know your worth, know your value. So if I'm going to sell myself as a teacher, I will be selling my responsibilities, what I've done in the past, right? I'll be backing it up with the number of people that I've been able to teach in the past, in the year that I've been in teaching, right? So sell your responsibilities. Don't just tell them you're a teacher, tell them you're a teacher that have mastered 4 subjects, right? Talk about the subjects, talk about how the students have progressed, right? Talk about how you have progressed. Talk about the tools you use. Talk about the things you use to teach, right? Talk about your teaching method. Share, sort of bring them into your experience. Let them go through that journey of teaching. Let them imagine themselves being a teacher. At the end of the time, by the time you are done talking about your experience, give a rate. Tell them, based on what we have discussed, I believe that a salary range between 100 and 180,000 naira will be enough for us to work on this, right? Give a range. That way, they are not doubting you. They are not opening their eyebrows to say, 180,000 naira for teaching, right? Because before you gave a range, you already shared the importance of being a teacher with them. To your second question about they make you do practical, they've not asked you your salary, right? It's an opportunity for you to prepare yourself now that you have done the practical. In fact, you now have the upper hand because you now do the practical. And let's for those of us that are going for interview, one thing that I want us to know is that they are not doing you a favor, right? So we need to really, really build confidence in this, right? You need your skill and you can give them the skill. And if you pass the practical, they call you for a formal interview. If you pass the practical and they call you for a formal interview, well, that just means that they are interested in your skill. So take time to craft your story, and I believe that you will do well in your interview.
Okay, thank you. So you've not really answered the question whereby I said they are not coming from with what their salary offer is like. They asked me, and I told them I'm expecting as my salary, but they are not coming for that. This is what we can offer you, or this is what we are offering for this role. How do we iron that out?
Okay. So it's okay to ask questions. Remember when we talked about being flexible, able to compromise, it's okay to ask questions. But you can phrase the question based on what we have discussed, may I know how much May I know the salary? May I know what the salary expectation is from your end? And you can tell them about other benefits. May I know the benefits that comes with, your job role, right? So if even if they tell you the salary and is below your expectation, perhaps the benefits can even cover, So it's okay to ask questions. Remember, you have to ask the questions in the right way.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you very much. I see 3 hands up now.
Okay. Okay, so Kingsley, before you answer your question, I know that there are a lot of people, wanting to ask questions. I can even see some questions in the chat box. Thank you all for raising up your hand. It just shows that everybody's very eager to learn how to negotiate. I can see some questions and some people, dropping some questions in the chat box. I want to briefly answer them. I know that someone asked about getting this particular presentation and recording, asked if they can get it. Yes, you can get it. We have a YouTube channel. I dropped the YouTube name. The YouTube name is Wave Vocational Education. Wave Vocational Africa Vocational Education and on YouTube slide. That is why I'm dropping a feedback form. So if you feel your feedback form, that is when we can have your contact info so that we can be able to send the presentation slide to you. If you would like to read the presentation slide and prepare yourself for further negotiation. Lastly, for those asking about how to negotiate salary and everything, that is where this career support department comes in, which luckily I'm a part of. So you can just reach out to us. I'm going to drop my email. I'm going to drop my number. You can reach out any of these sessions for people, that are going on interviews, just a way of preparing you on what to expect on that job interview so that you can have success on your interview or on your interview day. I hope I'm not missing out anything. And lastly, because of time, you said that the workshop is going to end by 11. So many of you have questions. Like I said, I'm going to drop my number and email on the chat, in the chat box. So just send in whatever questions you have. If we don't end up answering your questions, send whatever questions you have to my number or email, and then we are going to answer it and share whatever we answer with you. Is that okay? I hope that's okay. Please just type thumbs up on the chat box. Okay, thank you very much. Please don't forget to fill the feedback form. It's very important so that we can get your contact, share the presentation with you, and also get your feedback on how to improve our workshop going forward. So we're going to take 2 more questions, Kingsley, and call it a day, that people can get to whatever they need to do for today. Thank you very much, Kingsley. You can go on.
Right, thank you, Idara, for helping us just talk through that briefly. So 2 more questions. I see Adewale. Have I answered Adewale question? I think Adewale have spoken. Okay. Right. The second person I'm seeing here is Luwani Femi, right?
Yes. Okay, can you hear me? Okay. So this question I'm about to ask, it's kind of, I don't know, maybe it's irrelevant or relevant, but it just popped up in my head. There are some employers, that
okay. So I'm only seeing Ismaila. Okay, please go ahead with your question.
All right. So there are some employers, like if you like, no matter how calm you feel you can speak to them, they always like
Ismail, are
misunderstand you.
you there? Can you hear me?
You get, they always misunderstand you or something, in the sense that, see, I think I've had someone say that all I went to do just like meet my employer and discuss about salary raise and something, and before you know it, the man did not say anything, and all you could just see later at the end of, by the end of the month or something was just slack letter or something. So some employers will tell you that, let's be realistic here. They'll be like, what might be share it is swear or something. I don't know if you understand Yoruba. You get that, that's why you're asking for salary raise, and they'll be like, there are other people outside there that is wanting the work that you are still trying to want the salary raise for even a lower pay. You get, so, and you yourself, you are feeling that this thing is not actually getting comfortable for me anymore. So in that situation, will you advise if one quits the job, or someone should continue with the job, or whatever it takes, just someone courage and just kind of meet that employer or something and be like, sir, let's just then you just discuss in your range or something. Yeah, sir, this thing is not actually working out the way it's supposed to work out anymore or something. Because sincerely speaking, I was still lamenting over it last 2 weeks, sir. Things keep increasing and salary is not increasing. People, I think you understand what I'm trying to say now. So how do you expect us to handle that type of situation?
All right, thank you. Your question sounds very passionate. So the first thing I want you to know is that you cannot control how an employer reacts, right? However, you can control how you respond to their reaction. In a situation like this, it's almost looking like a toxic work environment. So you need to have an exit plan if that's the best option you can think of. The reason why I won't advise you to quit is because I know how difficult it can be sometimes to find a job. However, what I would advise you to have is an exit plan, right? So an exit plan could be, okay, if this environment is treating me this way, if this environment is not seeing my value, if they are not seeing my worth, can I start thinking about changing my job? And if I'm changing my job, what skills do I need to develop for the new place that I'm going, right? What do I need to learn, right? What professional development do I need to take on board so that by the time I'm going there, I should be able to communicate my value for higher salary? Another thing I want you to know from your example is, if you find yourself in scenarios like this, always try to look inwards. If somebody is treating you like this, it means that you have not communicated your value enough, right? So put that as a learning curve and make sure that doesn't repeat itself in the next place you are going. But like, again, I said at the beginning, do not slam the door, not just quit, obviously, unless you have another job that that is already in it for you. But have an exit plan, prepare your way out of the organization, and live your best life. If you can't not or negotiate the salary, or the employer is saying unreasonable. Right.
Thank you.
You are very welcome. Right, so thank you very much for having me today. I hope that we can do this again. That really depends on Idara. However, what I would say to you, some of the opportunities that we have currently at WAVE, for those of us that know what we do at WAVE Academy, is we are currently having our leadership training. For those of you who will be interested in leadership, negotiation is definitely part of it. So if you are interested in leading an organization one day, if you're interested in leading a community one day, if you honestly want to learn the skills you need to know about being a leader, even in your organization, regardless of the role you have, this opportunity might be best for you. It's happening in our academy at Ireti, number 2B Ireti, just behind Ozone Cinemas, Saboyaba. I'm sure Idara will speak more to it. I would really, really love to have you all there. I will be there live. And I hope to see us there. Thank you very much for your time. Until next time, Dara, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Kingsley, for this insightful session. It has been an amazing journey since 9 a.m. I'm so sorry for those that we couldn't answer the questions at this moment.